There is a brutal truth many men overlook about what truly captures and holds a woman's attention. It is not about flashing money, listing accomplishments, or trying to dominate every room with charm and confidence. What actually creates genuine interest is something far deeper and more understated. The men who leave a lasting impression are the ones who make a woman feel genuinely understood, not merely observed. They know how to move past the same predictable small talk she hears all the time. They understand that attraction develops when a woman feels comfortable enough to reveal her real self. Take a moment to reflect on your most recent conversations with a woman you truly loved. Forget the exact words for a second and think about the feeling of the interaction itself. Did it feel natural and meaningful, as though something real was unfolding between you, or did it feel rehearsed, like both of you were unconsciously repeating the same familiar pattern? The reality is that most men do not struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they focus only on surface-level interaction, while genuine connection happens much deeper, in emotional spaces they never learn to reach. And here is the painful truth: when your conversation becomes predictable, the emotional tension disappears. The moment a woman feels she already knows exactly how every conversation will go, her interest begins to fade. Now picture a completely different kind of interaction. Imagine sitting with her and, instead of trying to impress her, creating a moment so emotionally genuine that she temporarily forgets everything happening around her. A moment where she pauses, not because she has run out of words, but because your question touched something meaningful inside her. That is the turning point. That is when simple attention becomes curiosity, and curiosity slowly develops into emotional investment. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time someone asked you a question that made you feel truly understood? Not analyzed. Not judged. Truly seen for who you are. Once you understand how powerful that feeling is, you begin to understand what many women are quietly longing for behind all the noise and superficial interactions. Today's video is not about manipulation, clever lines, or dating tricks. It is about understanding the psychology of human connection on a deeper level than most people ever bother to explore. Because once you understand this, your entire approach changes. You stop desperately seeking attention and instead become someone others naturally feel drawn toward. Think about the reality many women live with every day. They are constantly noticed, complimented, and approached. People comment on their looks, style, or presence all the time. Yet despite all that attention, very few people take the time to genuinely understand who they are behind the surface. What many men fail to realize is that attracting attention is very different from making someone feel truly understood. A woman can be noticed constantly, yet still feel unseen on a deeper level. Over time, that kind of interaction becomes emotionally draining. When every conversation feels repetitive and surface level, she often mentally checks out before the connection even has a chance to develop. This is why so many men are quickly placed into familiar categories. It is rarely because they lack qualities or potential. More often, it is because the way they communicate feels indistinguishable from everyone else. They rely on the same predictable questions, repeat the same polished stories, and focus so much on presenting an impressive image that they leave little room for real connection. As a result, they fade into the background, not because they are forgettable people, but because the interaction itself never creates a memorable emotional experience. Occasionally, however, she encounters someone different. Someone comfortable with silence instead of rushing to fill it. Someone who doesn't immediately try to win her over. Someone who asks a question that genuinely makes her reflect and feel something unexpected. That brief moment of pause, when she shifts out of automatic conversation mode, is where true intrigue begins. It's where emotional tension develops naturally, without pressure or performance. In that moment, she becomes genuinely engaged in a way she didn't expect. Attraction works on both a physical and psychological level. Most men focus heavily on appearance, status, or outward traits, but psychological connection is what creates emotional depth and lasting impact. A woman is not only attracted by how a man looks or what he possesses. She is deeply affected by how she feels around him, whether she feels emotionally safe, understood, and curious to know more. What makes this even more powerful is the way the human mind processes emotion. People tend to remember feelings far more than facts. So when a conversation creates a meaningful emotional experience, that feeling often lingers long after the interaction ends. She may replay the moment later in her mind without fully understanding why it affected her so strongly. That is how attraction quietly deepens behind the surface. The lesson is simple: connection is not about saying more words. It is about saying something meaningful. It is not about trying to impress someone but about creating an atmosphere where genuine connection can happen naturally. One of the strongest ways to create that connection is through powerful questions. Not rehearsed or random questions, but sincere ones that encourage emotional openness and reveal parts of her she rarely shares with others. A meaningful question does more than keep a conversation going. It creates an emotional experience. It communicates attentiveness, awareness, and a genuine desire to understand her beyond appearances. And that quality is rare, rarer than confidence, humor, or social status. Now, let's talk about what usually happens instead. Many men approach conversations as if they were giving a presentation about themselves. They talk about their work, accomplishments, experiences, and ambitions. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but when self-presentation becomes the main focus, the interaction starts to feel performative. And performance creates emotional distance. While a man may be focused on proving who he is, the woman is often paying attention to something entirely different: how it feels to be in his presence. Those are not the same thing. I once worked with my friend who felt frustrated that his conversations never progressed into anything meaningful. He was successful, intelligent, and humorous, yet his interactions always seemed to end the same way, with polite interest followed by emotional detachment. So I encouraged him to change his focus. Instead of thinking about how to talk about himself, I suggested he become genuinely curious about discovering more about the other person. The next time he met a woman, he asked her a simple but unexpected question. Almost instantly, the dynamic shifted. The conversation slowed down and became more personal, and she grew noticeably more engaged. Later, she told him something he did not expect: "I can't explain it, but talking to you feels different." That is the real lesson here. Not learning a script, but changing the entire way you approach connection. Now, the 7 questions you are about to learn are not magic lines. They only have an impact when they come from a sincere place. If you ask those questions only to provoke a reaction, she will sense that immediately. But when your curiosity is genuine and you truly want to understand her, everything changes. She becomes more comfortable, her defenses soften, and she starts connecting you with the feeling of being genuinely understood. The first question is simple, but it reveals a great deal behind the surface. You ask, what's something you believed strongly a few years ago that you no longer believe today? Then you stay quiet. What makes this question so powerful is that it encourages reflection in a way most conversations never do. It shifts her attention away from small talk and toward her own growth and personal evolution. It gives her space to think about how life has changed her, what experiences have taught her, and how her perspective has developed over time. And when someone speaks about their growth, they naturally become more emotionally open. She may talk about relationships that changed how she views love, beliefs about herself she has moved beyond, or moments in life that challenged her unexpectedly. And as she shares these things, something deeper begins to happen. She is no longer just responding to a question. She is revealing part of her personal story. This is where many men make the wrong move. They interrupt, turn the conversation back to themselves too quickly, or break the emotional rhythm. But if you remain present, allow her to finish, and sit comfortably in the silence for a few moments afterward, she feels listened to in a way she rarely experiences. That silence is not uncomfortable. It carries weight. Think about the effect of that. In a world where most people are focused on appearing interesting, you become the person who makes them or feel interesting. And that changes the entire dynamic. Consider this for a moment: how many people truly listen to you without simply waiting for their chance to speak? Probably very few. The same is true for her. So when you become someone who genuinely listens, even for a short time, it leaves an impression that lingers far beyond the conversation itself. The second question moves even deeper emotionally. You ask her, when do you feel most like yourself? This question goes beyond surface identity. It is not about what she does for work or how she presents herself to the world. It explores who she is when she is not performing or trying to meet anyone's expectations. Her answer could be something simple, like sitting quietly with coffee in the morning, spending time in nature, or working on something creative she loves. Or it could be something more personal, like engaging in meaningful conversations, helping others, or experiencing complete inner peace. As she answers, something important happens. She reconnects with that feeling emotionally. And because you guided her into that space, she subconsciously associates you with that experience. That is how attraction often develops quietly, not through pressure or performance, but through emotional association. Here is where you deepen the conversation further. Instead of immediately moving on, stay with what she shared and explore it gently. You might ask, what is it about that moment that makes you feel that way? Suddenly, the conversation becomes far more meaningful. This is the kind of interaction most people rarely experience, a conversation that unfolds naturally instead of jumping randomly from one topic to another. And if you are paying close attention, you will notice another shift. She begins asking questions about you as well, not because she feels obligated to, but because genuine curiosity has been created. When someone feels truly seen, they naturally want to understand the person seeing them. So reflect on your own conversations for a moment. Are they creating experiences like this, or are they remaining at the surface where nothing memorable really happens? Because the next questions go even deeper. They uncover hidden desires, reveal emotional patterns, and create a level of connection that most people never reach. And when you learn how to use them naturally and sincerely, you will not just capture attention, you will become unforgettable. This is where everything begins to shift more deeply. Once a woman starts opening up and feels emotionally safe and curious around you, the goal is not to rush things forward. It is to guide the conversation into areas she rarely explores with others. Unfortunately, this is where many men lose momentum. Some become too eager and disrupt the flow, while others retreat into safe, shallow topics because they are uncomfortable with emotional depth. But if you remain calm, grounded, and fully present, this is the moment when a connection stops being intellectual and becomes something she genuinely feels. The third question is to create a deeper emotional shift. You ask her, if fear, money, or other people's opinions were not holding you back, what would you truly want to be doing with your life right now? What usually follows is a meaningful pause, not because she is confused, but because very few people are ever invited to think that openly. Most people spend their lives learning to be practical, to stay within limits, and to suppress certain desires before they even admit them aloud. This question temporarily removes those limits. It gives her permission to imagine herself without restrictions, and that feeling can be incredibly liberating. She may begin talking about a dream she abandoned, a passion she pushed aside, or a different version of life she quietly thinks about but rarely shares. As she opens up, her energy often changes. Her emotions become more visible, her expression more genuine, and sometimes a level of vulnerability appears that she usually keeps hidden. The important part is how you respond. You do not interrupt, offer solutions, or turn the moment into advice. You simply allow her to speak freely and feel understood. What she experiences in that moment is not only excitement about possibilities, it is emotional release. And when someone connects you to that sense of freedom and authenticity, it leaves a lasting emotional impression. You become someone she feels safe being honest with. For example, imagine a woman sharing that she once dreamed of moving abroad and starting a completely new life, but never pursued it because she felt obligated to remain close to her family. One person might immediately respond, "You should just do it. Life is short." Another person might instead ask, "What do you think your life would feel like if you actually did?" The first response quickly shifts into advice and unintentionally cuts off the emotional depth of the moment. The second response keeps her emotionally engaged, allowing her to continue exploring her feelings and imagination. That difference often determines whether a conversation becomes forgettable or emotionally memorable. Think about how uncommon it is for people to truly feel heard when discussing their dreams. Most are interrupted, redirected, judged, or rushed. Very few are simply given the space to express themselves openly. That rarity is what makes these conversations powerful. The fourth question goes even deeper. You ask her, what kind of relationship or connection do you honestly believe you deserve? This question touches on her beliefs about love, emotional security, and self-worth. Because of that, it can create a stronger emotional response than she expects. She may describe a relationship where she feels valued, respected, emotionally supported, and understood. Or she may hesitate, uncertain of the answer because she has never fully defined it for herself. Both reactions reveal something important. When someone struggles to define what they deserve, it often reflects experiences that shaped their expectations in unhealthy ways. Perhaps they accepted less than they truly wanted, or perhaps they are still learning what a healthy connection even feels like. This is often where genuine trust begins to develop, not forced trust, but the natural kind that forms when someone feels emotionally safe around you. Your role is not to analyze her answers or tell her what she should think. Your role is simply to listen carefully, stay emotionally present, and allow her to express thoughts she may rarely say out loud. When a woman shares something this personal, she is revealing part of her inner emotional world. How you respond in that moment strongly affects whether she continues opening up or gradually withdraws again. The fifth question creates an even more intimate level of connection. You ask her, what is something you wish people truly understood about you, but usually don't? Her answer might reveal insecurities, emotional exhaustion, or hidden struggles. She may explain that others see her as strong all the time when she actually feels overwhelmed. She may admit that people mistake her caution for coldness or that she often feels she gives more emotionally than she receives. At this point, your presence matters far more than finding the perfect response. If you become distracted or uncomfortable or try to quickly lighten the mood, the emotional connection weakens. But if you stay attentive and respond with sincerity, she feels genuinely understood. Sometimes the simplest responses are the most meaningful. Saying something like, "That makes complete sense," or, "I understand why you'd feel that way," is often enough. What truly affects her is not clever wording or perfect advice. It is the feeling that you are fully present with her in that moment. The sixth question invites her to look back on her life, but in a way that emphasizes growth instead of regret. You ask, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? As she responds, you are not simply hearing stories about her past. You are gaining insight into her values, her lessons, and the experiences that shaped her into who she is today. You begin to understand what matters most to her and what wisdom she carries forward. What makes this question so meaningful is that it naturally brings out important life lessons, defining moments, and personal realizations. When people reflect on their past with honesty and self-awareness, they often reveal profound truths about themselves without intending to. She may speak about learning to trust herself more, finding the courage to speak up earlier, leaving behind unhealthy situations, or showing herself more compassion during difficult periods of her life. And if you notice the pattern, every question serves a deeper purpose. None of them are random. Each one opens a different emotional layer: personal growth, identity, desire, self-respect, vulnerability, and reflection. When conversations unfold this way naturally, they create a level of depth that most people rarely encounter. At this stage, something subtle but important begins happening. If you have truly been present, listened carefully, and allowed silence and space instead of constantly filling the conversation, she already feels something different about being around you. This is where many men make another mistake. They try to force the moment forward too quickly. Instead, you remain patient and grounded. You allow the connection to develop naturally because attraction that builds slowly often feels more meaningful and lasts longer. Before moving to the final question, take a moment to think about how you would actually apply this in real conversations. Understanding something intellectually means very little if it never becomes part of how you interact with people. The next time you speak with someone, instead of focusing on saying something impressive, ask yourself a different question: what can I learn about her that most people never take the time to notice? That single shift changes the entire energy of the interaction. Now we come to the final question, the one that brings everything together. You ask her, what does freedom mean to you personally? And when she reflects on that question, something changes internally. Freedom is not just an idea people discuss casually. It represents emotion, values, and the things people quietly protect or pursue throughout their lives. At first, her answer may sound simple. She might say freedom means being able to do whatever she wants whenever she wants. But if you gently stay with the conversation and explore further, the meaning becomes much deeper. Freedom may represent emotional calm, independence, authenticity, or the ability to express herself without fear of criticism or judgment. It may mean no longer feeling pressured to prove herself to anyone. And this is where all the previous questions connect together. None of them were really about collecting answers. They were about creating an emotional experience where she feels safe enough to reflect, open up, and reveal sides of herself that rarely emerge in ordinary conversations. When you guide someone through that kind of experience with genuine curiosity and calm attention, something powerful happens. She does not simply remember the words you said. She remembers how she felt while talking to you. Think about the people you feel closest to in your own life. Usually, it is not because they impressed you the most. It is because they made you feel understood. They gave you space to be yourself without constantly filtering your thoughts or emotions. That feeling is uncommon. Now imagine offering that experience to someone else. Not by trying to appear perfect, but by being fully present, listening carefully, and asking questions that genuinely matter. That is where attraction quietly deepens into something more meaningful. Not dramatic or forced, but steady, authentic, and lasting. Still, this is the part many men struggle with most. Asking meaningful questions is only the beginning. What truly matters is how you carry the conversation afterward. These questions are not meant to become a script or checklist. Asking them one after another like an interview would feel unnatural and forced, and she would notice that immediately. Instead, think of each question as a doorway. You open it, step into the conversation, and spend time there. You explore it naturally and only move on when the moment feels right. For example, if she shares something personal about when she feels most like herself, you do not immediately rush into another prepared question. You stay engaged with what she already shared. You might ask something like, "What changed that helped you realize that?" Or, "Do you feel like you experience enough of that in your life today?" At that point, the conversation stops feeling structured and begins to feel alive. And there is another subtle shift that happens here. When you truly listen and respond thoughtfully, she experiences something beyond attraction. She feels respected and genuinely valued. Those emotions create a kind of connection that tends to stay with people for a long time.